Hi everyone, and welcome to the Publishing Performance Show. Today I'm really happy to be joined by Cyrus, who's a 17 times award-winning author. He's an indie publisher, he's a podcast host of the Author Lounge, so he's a really big name in the self-publishing world. So thank you for joining us, Cyrus.
Of course, man. It's crazy being on the opposite side sometimes, so I'm so grateful you had me back on here, Teddy.
Yeah.
You had me on your show. Last time we met, you were on mine, so thank you as well.
Yeah, I said exactly the same thing after coming off your show. It's nice to be interviewed for a change rather than having to and like stay really focused the whole time.
Yes, sir.
So your books, you're a 17-time award-winning author. So tell us a bit about your books and the style of those books.
Oh, yeah. So I have a variety of genres that I write in, with some of them being poetry, children's fiction, also young adult horror, and middle grade horror. So those are the main ones that I write in. I also have a graphic novel, hasn't been published yet, but that one's set to publish later this year or at the start of 2026, since that's going to be broken into a few volumes. But yeah, the genres, man, they somehow keep coming. I feel like I'm more attached to the idea of telling stories versus being locked into a specific genre. But I just so happen to be more comfortable in those genres.
Yeah. So before this talk, we were just chatting how you used to be in the military. But so how did you, so the authoring is kind of your second career. So what made you stop after the military? What made you want to go into writing?
Oh, yeah. So ironically enough, right, I feel like sometimes I'm not in the military, but I'm currently serving. Actually, I'm going in about 2 hours, but
you're currently in the military.
I'm currently, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. But I decided to do it because I just felt like I didn't want to wait. Most people that I've met when it comes to any career is they just, especially when they have a family, and I have a wife, and most people that I've met, they tend to wait until it's done. Their kids are graduated out of high school, in college, or whatever they're doing. And the member themselves, meaning like somebody in my position, waits until they retire and they have all of this free time. And I realized, like, man, time is precious, dude. And I really don't want to wait 20 years to just get started. Why not do it now? My wife was a proponent of just do both. Focus, prioritize and just do both. And having her support helped immensely. But I just had the urge to tell these stories, and an even bigger urge to help people through my stories. And so I just didn't want to wait. I'm sure you can relate to. Imagine you waiting 20 years to get this show started,
So did you always think you had a book in you like the whole time, or is this something that came to you relatively recently?
Oh, no. I've been writing since I was, I think, 5 or 6. And nothing professional, of course, but just writing in different forms of art. I think when I was a child, I wrote these skits out for what my mom would tell me. I wrote skits. My siblings and I would play these skits out using little toys and stuffed animals and action figures. And then when I was a teenager, I kind of got into the habit of trying to write screenplays. I didn't present any to anyone. I just wrote it because I had a love for it. And I started writing articles and blogs. And then I didn't start writing books until 2021. Yeah, 2020 is when I was into the business. I got introduced into the business, but I spent the year of solid research. And then that following year is when I decided to actually, let's go and let's write the book.
And which was the first book that you released as a writer rather than just as something you came out with as a child?
Yeah, the first one I actually launched was titled Sacred. It was a poetry book, and it was based on motivation and love and mental health issues. What I learned about that book versus every other one that, released subsequently was that I didn't have a specific message behind it. It had various messages in it. It was a collection of poetry, but I didn't have a specific audience member to direct it to. But at the time, you're releasing something, you're thinking, hell, we got this. It's going to be nice. We're going to have a great time. But hey, you might want to have a target audience. And I didn't have one at the time. So myself, as you would imagine for a first-time author, especially self-published author, you just trial and error. I've since learned how to market and how to be specific, but at the time I did not.
Yeah, so that first book, you didn't really do any research into it. It was just something that you really wanted to write in the first place.
Yeah, my research consisted of traditional publishing versus self-publishing, and then how about being independently published, and what goes into it, and who, and I would research people who were trap published versus self published, and kind of just did it in that facet. But with the book, I just didn't necessarily know, and I thought that I did, but I had no clue.
And so that first book, what was, I know you inspired by like love and all those sort of things. Was there any particular things that inspired that first book to be written? Because I know when I read the bio for the book, it starts with, have you ever watched your 7-year-old newborn child nearly die? Now,
Yeah.
is that something that happened to you? And was that what sort of inspired the book?
Oh, yeah, man. Like with that, my youngest son, so the quick story behind that is that like my wife, so I have preemies, I have three children, but my twins, Sebastian and Noah, my oldest one, his name is Abel, but Sebastian and Noah, they were in the NICU. And for those who don't know what the NICU is, I don't necessarily know how to define it. I just know when a baby isn't quite ready to come home, they have to stay there for additional time and get prepped up. I know there's an entire medical process behind it, but yep, my twins were in the NICU, and they were apparently, after about a week, they were good to go and ready to come home. And the night that my children came home, my youngest son Noah of the twins, I remember just lying down in my bed, and my wife, we had the bassinet next to us, and my wife said, "Hey, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was an intuition because I had no clue." But she said, "Check Noah," and I like turned the light on. I look. I was like, "He looks, he looks off." But I was scared, so I picked him up and didn't say anything. She said, "Is everything okay?" I said, "He looks purple," and she like got up, rushed up, and grabbed him. We realized he was choking, and we didn't even know how. He was just choking, and I just see him doing this and like just fighting and fighting, and she's like freaking out. And I was, certified with CPR. Doesn't take much to be certified, but I was certified to do CPR, but I wasn't doing anything at the time because I was letting her. She just said call 911, and I got them on the line. I just took over when I realized what she was doing wasn't working, and so I just took them, and then I ended up doing CPR on them. And by the time the ambulance showed up and the fire department showed up, he was good. But we were still freaking out. They still did their procedure and did everything that they needed to do. But I ended up saving his life. But
Wow.
this was day one of him coming home, of both, and we're all starting this new life together of the five of us. And it was just a scary night, and it stuck with me so much that I wrote about it, and it became more about just the message of just healing. I decided to put that one in the book just because I felt like it was just helpful for me. But like as I was mentioning, I didn't have a target like I thought. Like with the following book, I had a target, and
Yeah.
every other book afterwards. But that one I didn't. So it was just more like hey, here's a collection. I hope everyone likes the message, the different messages in it. But yeah, that was probably not even probably, that was the hardest poem I wrote in that book.
Yeah.
Easily the hardest one.
Yeah, that is an amazing story. That is so scary. I've got 2 kids. I can't imagine how scary that must have been. Now you mentioned with your second books, like you mentioned, a lot more research goes into maybe the process or like choosing how you're going to decide which books to launch. So talk me
Hmm.
through that process. What does it look like when you're deciding? Maybe are you doing keyword research or are you looking for a type of book? Like how does that whole process look?
Oh yeah, so I guess so first, like, it depends, right? So I'll go with this perfect example of the this book I just launched for one of my authors. It's titled Audie's Wish. Is a story of a young girl who, unfortunately lost a couple of people in her life, a couple of family members. They passed away, and it happened because there was one was an accidental death, and the other one came through miscarriage. It wasn't written in that way because it's a children's book. Kind of had to keep it. How can I cover up the idea to children that, oh my goodness, mommy actually had a miscarriage? What is that? Versus, okay, let's research what are some terminologies that's used that doesn't actually say that she actually had a miscarriage. And the same with the grandfather, how he passed away. He fell, But in the book, it was written as he was terribly sick. But so some research went into that of what's the genre that we want to write in, and what are some of the like, and how do we market this book? Because on the cover, the representation of that book is of a Hispanic female. It becomes more of, okay, how do we actually like market this book? What research needs to go into it to where we know which areas are going to be more effective, and how are we going to even, do it with keywords, and to differentiate it. And one of those was English as a second language, because in the book she's bilingual, and English was literally her second language. And I didn't necessarily even know that that was a category through Amazon. I know there's other, platforms, but specifically with Amazon, I didn't realize that that was a thing until I did some research and learned that that's actually quite literally down to the T, a category. And that's where she ended up hitting bestseller in and getting top rated, the number one new release in that specific category. And so a lot of that research, it comes into me trying to figure out what's the message behind the book, how do we market it, and who are we going to and how do we promote it overall.
I think that second part of what you said is quite important, because a lot of people forget about, I call it buyer's intent. So you can just do keyword research and you find a keyword and you think, oh, okay, this has got some searches, let's go for it. But I think you've got to think, what are the buyers actually looking to buy? Especially if they're looking for a non-fiction book. I feel like people are usually, they've got a problem to solve, they want to fix it. So working that buyer's intent around into your keyword research and how you title the book and how you position it, I think is really important. Is that something you look at as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that buyer's intent is a real thing, because some people look at it, okay, if I just put it in this category, it should do well. But like, no, but does the category match the intent of the story they do? Is there a parallel between the two? Now, I get it, it's a business, and some people put particular categories in to kind of boost the visibility of their book and hope that people buy it so there's more eyes on it. For me, when I was doing that, it was really specific. Like, I didn't want to have any sort of false advertisement, in a sense. I wanted it to be very specific. Like, I think one of the categories was Mexican books, because the character is Mexican. Or another category, I think, was along the lines of like multicultural. I'm just kind of shooting it out, but there was a specific words for it. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe that to be effective. Like, the buyer's intent matters greatly. I'm not going to be able to accurately target an audience that will specifically go towards that book if I don't know like what the intent behind the story is.
Yeah, definitely. Now, alongside your books, you've got Osiris Inc. Publishing, which is your own publishing house where you work with indie authors. Now, who are the sorts of authors you work with, and also how do you help them to become successful?
Oh yeah, so you said the source of the authors?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the types
Oh
of
yeah, ironically, what I've learned recently, and by recently I mean as recent as February, was that a lot of teenagers seem to gravitate towards me. People who I've helped out have either been some relatives or teenagers, and my audience generally consists of like the 18 to 25-year-old demographic, but I also have like a 12 to 17 and a 26 to 20 to 35-year-old demographic. But that primary is,
mine's a bit older, so
yes.
between the two of us, we can cover everyone.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh yeah, no, for sure, man. But with the teenagers, one of the reasons why I like helping out like the younger generation is to help set them up. Most people don't realize that, hey, going into to publishing is a business move as well, especially if you're doing it on your own. You have to look at it from the standpoint as if you're an entrepreneur, and you should focus on different like methods that can help. But a lot of teenagers going like graduating school, they don't know, and a lot of them are lost. But in my time of going to different high schools or middle schools or elementary schools and just talking out, there's just countless amounts of people who are storytellers, and their path becomes derailed to continuing to be a storyteller because parents or teachers or society says that there's no room for people like us. Meaning people that are creative or people in this space, there's no room for it. You need to go to school and be a doctor. You need to be a judge. You need to be somebody in law enforcement or go and join the military. go get an office job, go to school, get a degree, and apply that, and that's it. And just like my wife was saying, you could do both. But I was really keyed in on wanting to help out teenagers because when I was a teenager myself, I didn't know exactly what it would be like getting out of school. I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment business. I wanted to be an actor and go to Hollywood and make movies. But I knew I was attached to creative work. And for my teenagers that I have on board, I want to catch them before before life does, and snatches their souls out of their body and says, you know what, that creative side, there's no room for it. AI is going to take over anyway, so why do you matter? And my logic is that's true with AI, but that's always been a thing. Like people who are mathematicians don't allow a calculator to prohibit them to be a mathematician. So the same can be said for people who are writers that don't allow these AI programs to steal your joy. And so that's what I help out with my teenagers. And that's pretty much like my dreams come true, like making your dreams come true, never giving up on yourself, and to celebrate life are some things that I live off on. And that's what I encourage for my younger authors and readers as well.
Yeah, amazing. And for young adults and teenagers who are listening to this and they think, okay, I want to be a writer. I feel quite creative. I've got a lot to say. How do you suggest they start? Because there's a lot of different ways to approach. We've already covered a couple of ways of approaching writing, like doing a keyword research first or just writing whatever you want. And I think they're two different methods. But if you're speaking to young people and you say, okay, they want to get into writing, how would you get them to start? What advice would you give them?
Oh, yeah, it's such a great question, and it could go so many different ways. I think the best way is to one, know what you want to talk about. Like some people say, I want to write this story, I want to write this story, and they have all of these ideas, and their creativity is just not stopping. But I really think what I would tell them is, what's your message, right? Like, know what you want to talk about. And if they're still, I don't know what I want to talk about, and now they're stuck, and 4 years later, they still don't have a message, the best way to go about it is just to look up people who are doing something that you're doing. A lot of people, especially now that this day and age, a lot of people, especially teenagers, are using social media. So use social media to your advantage. And so I would suggest to these writers, hey, go to places like YouTube or maybe TikTok and type in, something that you're interested in that aligns with storytelling. Like, for example, you like horror books? Yeah, well, hey, maybe look up Stephen King and read some of his work, or Neil Gaiman, and check out maybe check out Coraline, or maybe look at some people who are within your genre, Five Nights at Freddy's, if you kind of like the kid-like but still horror-like style. Maybe look into that and start to let your algorithm reflect what you want to become, because those algorithms will feed whatever you're researching. And so that's how I would say start to kind of, because many people don't have that social circle full of people who they want to surround themselves with. And so using the internet to their advantage in that regard is an excellent way to get started.
Yeah. And so with your publishing house, with Osiris Inc., you work with these young authors to try and get their books seen by as many people as possible. So what does that process look like from when they come to see you with an idea, or maybe even some kind of manuscript, to getting it published and being successful?
Oh yeah. So the first thing is, to me, is, okay, hey, what's the message behind it? Because I've had people approach me saying, hey, this is my book. And I also need to be realistic in the notion that, am I going to actually have the time allotted to read their manuscript, depending on what it is? And so right now I'm working with a guy who lives out in Pakistan, and his name is Danny, but he's a poet as well. But his message was that, and where he's from, it's frowned upon to do that. But he's gone through so much trauma that he wants to be able to express to the world that, hey, you can be trapped, you can be trapped. Not that if you are feeling trapped in a society where you want to get your voice out, do it through a book under a completely different name and share it with the world, not just for their healing, but for your own healing. And that resonated with me. I love the idea that maybe not so much that he's trapped, but that he's trying to think of a way to help people through it. Like, hey, I'm not the only one who feels like I can't do it. You know, many third world countries, I'm sure people have a, you know, they're not a slave to society. They're trapped in a world where they have to abide by the rules of their country, but they still have that artistry or that artist in them. And so with him, he had that message of wanting to people who feel stuck, trapped where they are. I want to be able to talk to them, and I like the idea, so I hopped on board with that, and that's what we're pressing for. So it starts first with the let's talk. Okay, what's your idea? What are or what are some ideas that you have? This is the main message that I have. I love the message. Okay, do you have a manuscript drafted? I have it finished. Yeah, send it to me and I'll read it through. Okay, do you have an editor? Nope. Cool. I have an editor. I'll send it to an editor. Okay, comes back. Now we're squared away. Now let's get creative and think about what do you want the book cover to look like? Because I like the title to represent some part of the book. Like if they read the title, it should have some sort of a message to the book. At least that's my mindset, right? But I also want the book cover, if the title wasn't on the book cover and they just looked at the book cover, does it tell the message? And so we get creative in that. And then from there we push. And so for me, I treat my like promotions like it's a movie. I did it for a couple of my authors already where, okay, I do these catchy, nice promotional posters. And then we take pieces from the book and we put it in there and we put it in like a trailer form. And then there's an actual book trailer reminiscent to a movie trailer. And then the book launches. And then we get a whole team together of people who are kind enough to help spread the word on top of the marketing strategy to push it out. And then everything is good. And that's where social media has been relatively well. So that's kind of what my process looks like from start to finish.
Yeah, so it's like fully end to end. And I know you've got a book. There's a book that's just come out. That Ari's Wish was one of the people who are in your publishing house. So what was the process like from them coming to you and getting that live? Like, let's walk through that process. We've got a live example.
Oh yeah, so for Vonnie, I'm thinking Vonnie's Wish. Was Flocka M. And when I was talking to her, she was talking to me about, hey, you know, I have all these ideas, but I have a message. She wanted to be able to help out children who specifically like the preteens up to like the 15, 16-year-old. She wanted to be able to put out a message that, hey, if you have, you know, loved ones that you unfortunately lose and you want to help the world, find a way that can help you not only like feel like you can heal, but you can heal others. For her, she wanted to become a nurse. Real life, she wants to become a nurse. In the book, she made that message be reflected of that because she wanted to become a nurse because she lost some relatives, right? In the story, kind of similar. Some of it is, you know, some of it is fiction for sure, but she ultimately wanted that. And so for the Audience Wish, she came to me with the idea of, hey, this is kind of what I'm going through, but I want to be able to help out children and young teenagers. Okay, so the message behind that is just this very simple sentence of I don't want people to feel what I felt. So she feels like being a nurse is going to help people not feel that way. So when she came to me, we did that, we talked, and then I said, okay, write me something then. So she wrote the story, and then we went the same process, went through, got the editor, and then we got the illustrators. For the difference is with hers, with children's books versus a poetry book, depending on the direction, is going to really determine how the book is going to be created. So for the children's book, of course, there's illustrations involved. And what do we want the illustrations to look like? And is that an accurate representation of what you want the story to look like? It's hard for people who are not a woman to draw features of a woman with like intricate parts. It's not hard for artists. Like if they are skilled, they can draw a woman, right? But if they say, for example, you write a like a romance novel and you write a scene for a woman who's going through like, you know, these intimate scenes. I believe that a woman who is a writer and skilled versus a man that is equally as skilled as a writer will not be able to write the feelings and the intimate, you know, responses that a woman goes through in a way that a woman can write it, because a woman knows what women go through, specifically the types that men can't necessarily research, that women can write it in those scenes. But a man trying to write those same scenes probably could do it really well. But I don't think from a genuine, authentic standpoint that as a man we can truly understand what women experience without being a women themselves. And so that's what I'm saying. So like for Adi's wish, we were looking at, okay, who can accurately like represent the story as an illustrator. The illustrator also was pregnant at the time as well. And so she understood the connection of how exactly to draw. Like if I were to lose somebody, I'm pregnant and I'm going to have a miscarriage, how would I feel? And it just translates so well in a genuine manner enough. I didn't go and research, okay, who's a pregnant illustrator? She just happened to be a pregnant illustrator. But it's to that point, finding somebody who can accurately represent it. So I know that's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I just kind of wanted to give you that process.
Yeah. Being a pregnant illustrator, that's quite a niche, isn't it? You have to stay pregnant for your entire career in order to keep it going.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Now, for the sort of people that you're looking to represent as at Osiris Inc., the sort of books you're looking for, who's your ideal like writer? Like, what would be an ideal book that would come to you?
That one, I think to me, it just becomes more about the message. I know that, like for example, fantasy. I don't have anybody who does fantasy with me. I also know that I don't read fantasy, but I'm not against the idea of if a fantasy author came to me. So I'm just looking for people who have a message, a direct message that can target an audience that can be helpful to them and society. People who have great imaginations, they tell all these wonderful and lovely stories, and it's good. It can be like a stress reliever, or you just take them out of your world. But like, what does the story represent? If it's a hero that wants to, save the world, like, but why? Like, why do they want to save the world? What exactly is it about them that wants to save the world? I get behind messages, and depending on the genre, that's kind of still to be determined. But as of right now, it seems that the genres that have fallen into my lap happen to be poetry and children's books, which is not a coincidence because I write children and poetry books as well. But again, I'm not. I know that like my truth, I wouldn't get behind erotica because that's just not like an accurate representation of me. If you want to write 50 Shades of Grey, the remix times two, do your thing. I wouldn't necessarily be able to promote it because my audience doesn't consist of people who match that. So I look for people, one, who have a specific message, but doesn't lay true to me. I'm not somebody who, I'm not even being like African American, I'm not somebody who's like pro-black. I'm somebody who's equal opportunity, even though those opportunities aren't necessarily equal. It's a matter of make your own opportunity, create your own opportunity. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your ethnicity is or what your background, your cultural background are. I care, but I don't mean I don't care for it as a, hey, we're each other. You're black, I'm black. Let's help each other out. Like, no, it's not about that. It's about what's your message and how can we reach a certain demographic of people. The race thing, no, I grew up around diversity. Being a military child, my family, we moved around a lot. So I was exposed at a young age to different races, to cultures, from Hispanics to Caucasian, to people from Australia and the UK, people who are Asian, to different forms of Asian and African American. And so I was brought around that. So my truth is already by default culturally based, not locked into one type of race. And so I just look for the message. And if that message I feel I connect with and I can get it going, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one of the other things in your books, like you personally, and also in some of the books you represent, you've won lots of awards and people won awards. Tell me about some of those awards. Like, how did you apply for them? What effects has it had on like your overall publishing career? Like, because awards are quite new to me, apart from some of the big ones. So, like, tell me a bit about that.
Oh yeah, no, that's a wonderful question too, because awards help immensely, but it depends on the type of an award as well. Like, can you submit for a particular book competition that necessarily doesn't have any weight behind it? Not to knock any of these competitions, because everyone has to get their start somewhere. but certainly certain awards have more weight than the others. But for me, I ended up just, I think it was Dale at the time, Dale Roberts on his channel. He was doing like with Book Award Pro, and I researched Book Award Pro to kind of see what goes into it because you can type in on Google, do a quick Google search, and put in book award submissions, and it gives you just a variety of places to submit to, or people, or websites to go through. And I didn't know what was true and what wasn't, especially at the time. Even with research and all these reviews, you don't know how genuine it is, and so it can be a cash grab. And these submissions cost money. So Dale's video had Book Award Pro CEO on it, Hannah, and she just seemed trustworthy just in her approach. And Dale doesn't deal with people who pretend, at least not up front. Maybe he doesn't know if they are like that, but I would imagine that none of the people that he's dealt with, none of them are like that. And so I looked into her website, I checked it out, and I went the free route. I'm like, let me just test the free route and do the research based off of what they send me. And that's what happened. And I submitted to the Outstanding Creators and won some awards there. And their awards actually opened up doors for other ones. And then someone saw my book, Sacred, with the award seal on it on Amazon, and they happen to represent a different book awards program. And that book award, I can't recall it from the top of my head, but I think it was Book Excellence or something like that. And Kobe Bryant had actually won one of their awards. And Kobe Bryant was actually, yeah, he was my all-time favorite athlete, even up to his unfortunate passing, was a guy who I always admired. And so I said, he won this award too? Okay, cool. So I became a believer, and they reached out to me, and they said, we loved your book, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of looked at it as do I submit to them because they reached out to me? And obviously it's business, but they're reaching out to me because there's a chance that if I submit to them, I could win based off of who reached out to me. And then that opened up another door to me winning another award where I was invited to an award show. And it is a big circle of life, but it's a door that opens another door that opens another door. But it's all started with me doing my research on Book Award Pro. This is not an endorsement, by the way. They're good people. I'm not sponsored by them. This is just kind of how I got started. I went through Book Award Pro, and I used their free account, and they sent me things either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, however you set it up. And then I researched the category that they had me in, or the people who they put me in contact with, and then I just submitted on my own, and everything else was history.
Yeah, amazing. Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, Cyrus. It's been great chatting to you. I think you're doing a really cool thing with your podcast. Like, I think the Authors Lounge, I love being on it, and we've had some really cool guests. So I'd really recommend everyone go and check that out. If people want to get in touch, sorry, go on. Yeah, come on.
Sorry, I was gonna say, could I actually make a message for the Authors Lounge as well? Like why I'm doing that one before it looks. Yeah, so like the reason behind my podcast, the Authors Lounge, is because I was, much like earlier when I was talking about the younger generation, that platform is really specifically geared towards helping educate the younger generations of writers and creators. And then I get guests on the show who are much like Teddy, who are experts, or they have a wealth of knowledge that can help as a benefit to them. And it's an interview format, but it's also a conversation. We're having just a great time and just answering questions, asking questions specifically that I feel could be helpful for those who are listening. And it's crazy because I've had quite a bit of people on already, and the younger authors that I've had on the show have garnered the most viewership, which I don't think that's by accident because my audience are younger, but it is helpful. It's showing that that demographic, they're paying attention. Just so people like yourself, Teddy, or with Dale, or other guests who have come on to the show have really helped spread the message. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me do that little plug.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's a really good podcast. I love being on. So I'd really recommend everyone checking it out. If people want to find the Authors Lounge and also like get in touch with you, what's the best place to do that? Yeah,
they can either go through my website, which this might be a little lengthy, but it's OsirisInkPublishing.com, and OCYRUSINK PUBLISHING. OsirisIncPublishing.com, or you can just type in Osiris in Google,
Yeah.
like O apostrophe CYA, CYA, O apostrophe CYRUS, in a quick Google search, and just put, I don't know, author or the author's lounge, and I should pop up. Hopefully, question mark, fingers crossed. Hopefully, I think I made it, but no, honestly, on my website, there's an email. If you subscribe to it, no price tag. There's a pop up. You just put your email there, and then I can reach out to you, or you can just contact me through social media. Osiris Inc. Publishing for Instagram, or Osiris Inc. Publishing for LinkedIn. And I'm also on X at O_CYRUS_ And on YouTube, just put in Osiris author, and then I should pop up.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. We'll put links to all those in the show notes so that you people can go and find them, because you've got like the weird spellings.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Cyrus. And it's great chatting. We'll speak soon.
Of course. Thank you all for having me on.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but are not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but are not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1.